Yo, what's going on, boy Ghost here, and today I'm bringing us another Warzone 3 video. And today we're going to be taking a look at the new top 5 class setups after the Season 4 Reloaded update. Unfortunately, in this update, there wasn't really anything that stood out, except for the car update. That finally got nerfed, got balanced out. Didn't get nerfed significantly though, so if I'm you, I would not freak out. That gun's still going to be really good. They just balanced it out a little bit, made it a little bit more easier to close the gap between the car and the primaries, because the primaries are still going to be, or they look like they're going to be lackluster after this update because nothing really stands out. No LMG from MW3 got significantly buffed. No AR really got buffed. One battle rifle got buffed. They kind of had a lackluster update in terms of the primaries, which is very unfortunate. But there's still some good things here that happen, and we're going to talk about it. So with that being said, let's get into the video. And for our first weapon, we have the Super 46. Now, this is a little typical, but unfortunately, they didn't actually nerf it in today's patch. I don't know if people were really expecting it. I honestly don't think this gun's that broken. It's a really good SMG, obviously considered the best, or one of the best in the game right now, but it's not that crazy. In comparison to like the HRM, I feel like it's kind of the same. The HRM, in my opinion, was never that broken either. It was just overused for too long because we had it in meta for like 3 months. Hopefully, the Super doesn't really follow that. I think maybe at most it's gonna make it to season 5, and then it'll probably get nerfed. But the good thing about it right now is, despite it still remaining strong, there's actually other options right now that are capable of competing with this weapon that we'll talk about shortly. And so I'm not really that mad that this gun didn't get nerfed. Maybe they saw that too, that there's actually really good competitors that this gun doesn't need to get nerfed, which I'm completely fine with. I got no problem with this gun still being good. It's a fun weapon to use. This class setup in particular is really fun for me, and hey, we'll take it. But with that being said, man, we'll move on to the next weapon. And for our next weapon, we have the MCW, which received a slight buff today, following suit from the Season 4 update, because in Season 4, it actually got a very minimal update as well. And, as a primary, it's good. It helps it a little bit, but where it shines the most is with the conversion kit. This update helps the conversion kit a lot more than it will in the primary version, and I think that this gun will be a strong competitor against the Supri moving into the new, update. I would have said new season, but it's not the new season. It's just a new update. And this gun really does now give me the XM4 vibes. It was already giving me those vibes. People already compared it to that weapon prior to this, but this gun is becoming really strong as a secondary, and I would not be surprised to see this weapon somehow find its way into the meta, or at least people experiment with it to see if it's potentially better than the Supri or even better than the FJX. I enjoyed using this weapon. I think right now in its current state it's really good, but with this update it's going to be insane, and I cannot wait to use this with the conversion kit. Again, I think the primary version will be obviously a little better, but where you're gonna really see that buff is gonna be in the conversion kit. So with that being said, let's move into the next weapon. And for our next weapon, we have the FJX Horix. Now, I know this list kind of seems secondary dominant. I apologize. Like I said, the primaries or the primary updates today were not that crazy. Nothing really moved me that much because they just really didn't do anything to the primaries, which sucks because that's what I was excited for, to see if they were going to do things to the primary. But I knew, man, deep down that they were going to probably fail to do what I was hoping they were going to do. But it's okay, because the secondaries, the conversation is still pretty cool, and there's a lot of interesting things that may happen moving into post update. Like I said, we already had the MCW conversion kit, the Super, and now the FJ Horix. This gun actually got buffed through the conversion kit, which is insane because a lot of people were already thinking that the conversion kit FJX was better than the base FJX. Now, overall, this gun's really good. This gun's amazing. It was already a competitor to the Supri. I'm very curious to see how this conversion kit buff is going to change it up, and if people are going to prefer this over the Supri just flat out. But again, with the MCW now in the conversation, I'm getting curious to see if that gun will potentially take over both of these guns' spot. But again, we're talking about the FJX. The Jax, how do you even say it? The conversion kit got a huge buff today. The damage ranges all across the board got pretty much buffed. The max damage range, the near mid damage range, and the mid damage all got buffed, and I think that's a pretty significant step to kind of help this weapon get into the meta. And I would not be surprised to see if most people come out this update using this gun. I haven't actually used the conversion kit. I don't know why. I just haven't used it, but I've used the FJX, and I know this gun's absolutely insane. So I'm very curious to see how this is all going to play out, because again, like, the conversion kit was already getting preferred by a lot of people. People were already calling it like really good. For it to get buffed again, that's insane. But they doubled down on it, and now we have an insane secondary conversation to have, which is crazy because this is what should be happening in the primary. But I digress. Anyways, with that being said, let's move on to the next weapon. And for our next weapon, we have the MTZ-762. Now, I know this may seem a little random, but I gotta be honest, bro. Considering what's on these patch notes and what we've already had prior to this update, this is like one of the best options to even put on this list because there actually is some potential here. This gun, we already remember, was one of the metas back in the day. Hasn't been talked about since then, but with the update that it got today, now it wasn't anything too crazy. It only got buffed certain damage ranges like the max and near mid damage range. Nothing too crazy. The meters themselves were a pretty significant increase, but outside of that, no damage multiplier, no damage itself got buffed, and so this gun is kind of like a wild card for me putting it on this list. But if I really take a look at the list of primaries that got buffed in today's update, there's nothing really that stood out to me. Now I could have put the Car 98 on this list, but I'm not gonna do it. Like you already know, man. The Car 98, that was the biggest thing coming into the update. You see what got changed. We all know it's gonna be good, and I don't really care for snipers. Yeah, but it's good. You know what I'm saying? I would actually still put that as a top 3 primary, which is insane because their job was to diversify the primary pool in this update, and they did not do that. I'm not gonna get too deep with it. If you look at the patch notes, you can see what got changed, and it's just lackluster. Unfortunately, this was supposed to be a major update, and it kind of, in my eyes, flopped with what they should have done. But this MTZ, if this come back in some form, would be cool. I enjoyed using this weapon. It was a pretty fun meta. I won't be opposed to it because coming back won't be as strong as it used to be, so it won't be that annoying. But if it's able to compete, that's all that matters. If it's able to compete with the car, that's all that matters. But with that being said, let's move on to our last weapon. And last but not least, we have the MTZ-556. Now, this gun didn't get significantly buffed, but it did receive a slight buff, which is, again, following the trend that every update this gun seems to get a buff, whether it's major or not. Today's case, the bullet velocity got increased slightly. Not the craziest buff, but again, most of these buffs really didn't do much today. So I'm just putting it on here because this gun was already like a top 3 primary in my eyes coming into today's update. The biggest thing that happened for this weapon was the car getting nerfed. More specifically, the aim assist getting nerfed, which was, or I guess adjusted, not nerfed. It just got adjusted to match a sniper rifle's aim assist, which I think most people really wanted. And for the sake of balancing, that was the best thing they could have done without them completely destroying the weapon. So now it seems like all the easy shots that people are hitting will finally kind of start to dumb down a little bit, and maybe will allow for just most primaries to come back and feel a little bit more competitive. And if that's the case, I do think the MTZ is going to be a significant factor in that. There's a chance this gun could see some meta time in the second half of the season 4 update, because I do, in my opinion, I think this gun's better than the Holger 26. I enjoy it a lot more than Holger 26. The Holger 26 is cool, but I think this gun's better. And I think now, if the Car 98 really did get balanced out, not nerfed, rather just more so balanced out, now people are going to be more comfortable attempting to use other primaries. Despite the primary classes being kind of lackluster, there's still some hidden gems there, including MTZ-556. So I'm curious to see how it's going to happen by the end of the week. Right now is going to be the testing period for most people to find out what they want to use and what's going to be the meta moving forward. But yeah, man, before we get out of here, if I want to say, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button on the road to 5,000. Every sub does help, and I really appreciate it. And as always, if you enjoyed, hit that like button, and I hope you get dubs with these loadouts. I'm out. Peace.